This is the Your Career Story podcast, and you're listening to episode 73, Brent and Jena, How Work and LinkedIn Was a Part of Our Love Story. Welcome to Your Career Story podcast, a show that's designed for rockstar professionals looking for that extra booster shot of confidence in their careers. Whether you're trying to get clarity on a job transition, want some work-life balance inspiration, or need a strategy to snag that promotion or raise, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Jena Viviano, ex-Wall Streeter turned startup junkie who now coaches hundreds of clients, empowering them to take back control of the job search and land their dream job. So sit back, grab a glass of wine, and prepare yourself for your weekly boost of career confidence. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Your Career Story podcast. We are changing things up a little bit today, where we are talking about personal stuff versus professional stuff. I thought it was a really fun episode to do because at the time that this is getting released, we are about T-minus 3 days until Brent and I are officially married, which we're obviously very excited about. But I get a lot of questions on Instagram and sometimes even on LinkedIn just about my story of meeting Brent because I was single for such a long time. I've talked about this on the podcast and what singleness as a career woman looks like and how to think about it differently. And so I thought it would be really fun to bring my sweetie on to this podcast. I don't think I've ever called him sweetie, but to bring Brent onto this podcast so we can share a little bit about how our work is aligned with how we met and also how we got engaged too. So Brent, thank you, my dear, for coming.
You're very welcome. Good to be seen. Good to be here.
You didn't really have a choice in being here or not?
I did not. No.
So I was telling my friend Adenola, you guys have heard her on a couple of episodes. I was texting her. I said, I finally told Brent that I gave him a calendar invite and told him, hey, we're doing this podcast, so make sure you set aside the time for it, which I also feel like is very me to send you I send him a lot of calendar invites.
It was very corporate. I tend not to check the calendar invites very often just because I don't really use that calendar at all.
But I use the calendar.
You use the calendar. I also thought it was comical how we didn't think we were going to do this today because you thought you were going to push it to next week. And your explanation to me when I didn't know that was happening was, well, I sent you a calendar invite.
Well, here we are. Mm-hmm. Here we are. So I was getting a couple questions, and I think that you actually have a lot to offer, even just of encouragement for people that are single too, because you were single for a while. And so you have some thoughts around that. But I got a couple of questions. So first things first, one of the number one questions I get on Instagram was I want to know how you guys met, because maybe it's a single gal typically that's asking this question of how do I hack this system? How do I figure out where to meet my person? So obviously we can't tell you how to do that, but we can share our story of how we met. So babe, where did we meet? How did we meet?
I think it was dumb luck more than anything. Or what do you mean? Why
I don't think it was dumb luck. I think it was divine intervention. So.
Yeah, I think God was pulling some strings as far as that was concerned. But you mentioned a bunch of life hacks or what you can do.
Well, no, I didn't do that. Yes.
But that's impossible to do.
Well, it is impossible. You're absolutely right. It comes down with I believe it's the right timing and when God opens those doors and allowed us to meet at the right perfect time. We've talked about this before, that we didn't meet a minute too soon or a minute too late.
No, and we were talking to a friend of yours the other day about that, where I feel men and women probably do this routinely, where they're looking back on whatever event just happened or whatever interaction they just had,
and thinking
a date or whatever it might be. If it wasn't even a date and you just met somebody, and if I would have just acted this way or said something differently, then I would have been able to manipulate the outcome to the one that I wanted.
Right. So you're saying you can't really hack your way there.
That's what I believe.
Okay. So how did we meet then?
We met.
I'll let you tell your version.
Yeah. A friend of ours, Zach, I remember waking up. I think it was I want to say it was a Wednesday or Thursday morning. Yeah, Thursday morning, because it was after the class that you were in. But I got a text from Zach.
And how'd you know Zach?
I knew Zach because we had been in a Bible study together for probably at least a year prior to this.
And he was trying to get you with somebody too. He was being a good friend.
Yes, but but more in a way of okay, what are you doing about it? So are you taking actionable steps to put yourself in a position to actually meet somebody?
And he gave you a book.
And he gave me a book called How to Get a Date Worth Keeping.
Yeah, which I've read too.
It was very strategic. And I was slightly embarrassed that I was reading this book because
There's no shame in that.
There is no shame in it. But he put it to me that he thought I was suffering from a numbers problem.
So you just didn't have enough volume?
I needed to get my volume up in order to get to to get to the diamond in the rough. But so we would have conversations throughout the year, just how the dating was going. And I had no expectations that he was going to, set me up with my wife or anything like that, and didn't really have any expectations. I always felt I was always really honored and thought it was the most thoughtful thing in the world when one of my buddies' wives would set me up with somebody, or when a friend would reach out and say, "Hey, you should meet so-and-so."
It's kind of the highest form of compliment.
It very much is. And it's so easy not to do things. So that I recognize when somebody actually does something for you, nobody needed to do that. And that always meant a lot to me in hindsight over the years. But back to the story, Zach texted me that morning, and I had a date that previous night. And he said, "Hey, how'd your date go?" And I was just like,
not great.
It wasn't horrible, but I just knew I wasn't going to call her again.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, would you like me to set you up with a girl? She's really tall. She's pretty. She loves Jesus. She's from Pittsburgh." And I thought, Pittsburgh. I'm not moving back. But I said, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Always open to meeting new people." And, didn't have any expectation of where this might go, or was just being very open-handed and present as far as that was concerned. But that was my lens of how we met.
Yeah, and then you called me a week later.
4 to 5 to 6 days later. That wasn't intentional. I think I was just, probably busy with work and whatever it was, and called you up and asked you if you wanted to grab coffee sometime.
Yeah. And my memory of it obviously is we actually have a very similar story. And then I actually also went on a date the night before we were connected. And it was not a great date. It was actually really not a great experience. I won't get into details about that, but it wasn't great. And I remember waking up because I had to go to this class. I was in this faith and work class. And it was that morning that after that terrible date, I was up all night because I was really stressed out about it. And I had to give this presentation the next day on the story of my life. And I made a PowerPoint presentation, which, by the way, most people did. People have made fun of me for that. And I'm like, everybody did a PowerPoint presentation. So I told my whole story. And then I had put on the last slide that I was now taking resumes or applications for the future Mr. Jena Viviano. And I had a picture of Tim Tebow, Brett Eldridge, Bobby Bones.
To interject real quick.
Yes, honey.
Our last name will not be Viviano. We are changing it to Duniano.
Duniano, Dune, and Viviano together. I kind of think that should be our hashtag for our wedding.
Patent pending.
Patent pending, yeah. And so I had finished my whole presentation, and apparently Zach tells it sitting there, I was watching it, and I thought, that guy kind of looks like Brent, meaning Tim Tebow, which is hysterical.
Because we look nothing alike.
You don't really look a lot alike, but you are tall, blonde, broad people. So I think that's probably where his blue eye, whatever. So I think that's where his brain went.
For our 90s basketball fans, I'm more built like Sean Bradley than I
don't think you're having anybody that's a 90s basketball fan.
Or for all those Space Jam fans out there, the really tall white guy.
So and I said, sure, what are his details? And I was very uninterested because I had this terrible date the night before. And I said, well, what are his details? He goes, well, he's tall. And I went, okay, go on. and then he was like, and he's a loan officer. And I was like, I have no idea what that person does, but it sounds like it's finance. I think it could hang into a conversation. I said, okay, what else? And he goes, I don't even know what else he said. And I said, well, does he love Jesus? Or no, he said, and he's from Pittsburgh. And I did the same thing. And I went, I don't know if I want to go on a date. I said the same thing that you said. I don't want to move back to Pittsburgh. So I hope that he's not interested in that. For the record,
we are both very proud of being from Pittsburgh, but we found a home down here.
Yeah.
And don't have any interest of
no, the weather's not that great. No. It's gray all the time. It's gray. But Pittsburgh people, we love Pittsburgh people, but we just had no desire to move back home. And most Pittsburghers
want to go back.
So that was the assumption, this like subtext to what he was saying. He thought he was like, oh, they're going to be love being from the same area. And so I said, well, does he love Jesus? And And he was like, yeah, I grew up Byzantine Catholic, which for those people that maybe understand more of the subcontext of that, there's some different belief structures. I was like, I don't know if this is going to go over
Even
well.
Roman Catholics don't know what being a Byzantine Catholic
Exactly.
is.
So it was just like the difference there. I was like, oh, I don't know. I know my friends. I just knew it was not going to be what I wanted it to be. So I was like, whatever, you can have my number. It's fine. So he's like scurrying around the room and he's like, can I get your number? Can I get your number to send it to him right now? I'm going to send it to him right now. And so I just remember grabbing coffee and I was like, sure, here's my number. Totally forgetting about it. And then you called me on the phone, which for the record, ladies, anytime a guy calls you on the phone, he's a winner in my book. Cause I really think, babe, you were the only guy in years that had called me on it for a first date. I don't know if I've ever had a guy call me for a first date. And so you called me on the phone and it was a 412 number, which is my area code. And I thought to myself, I must be a spammer. So I answered it in kind of I'm surprised I even answered it, honestly, in kind of a ticked off voice.
She was kind of icy.
Yeah. And I was like, hello, this is Jena. And you were like, hi. And he hates how I imitate this, but hi. Hi, this is Brent, Zach's friend. And I'm like trying to put in my brain who Brent is because I didn't remember you. So for the longest time, honestly, I think we had been dating for about a month and a half by the time I finally changed it to Brent Jena, not Brent, Zach's friend. I'm sorry you're learning this now.
I am.
So that's how we met. And our first date was at 8th and Rose Coffee.
In the Nations.
In the Nations.
And just to point out, that is not how I sounded when I called you up. I was way smoother. I was calm. I was cool. I was collected. But carry on.
Yeah. So that's how we met. And we had our first date was at a coffee shop in the middle of a Monday. I basically made you work for it a little bit because I was just like, yeah, this is my time that I can go. It's a middle on a Monday morning. And I remember you feeling like, sensing that you felt like that was like really odd that I wanted to do it. I got to figure out what my meetings are. That's what you said to me.
I made it sound like I was way more important than I actually am.
Probably.
Yeah. But,
And then we left that first date. And here's the other thing I think it's helpful for people, because a lot of people, I've gotten this question, like, did you know immediately, like he was going to be the one? And no. I would say both of us, we did not know that.
Absolutely not.
I was like, that was a nice date. I was like, I'll go out with him again. Like, that was fun. We talked or whatever. He wouldn't hug me goodbye. And then whenever we
felt presumptuous.
Sure.
I wouldn't. I just met you an hour and a half previous to that.
Pre-COVID, baby. This is pre-COVID. Hugging's acceptable. We just spent 2 hours together. I'd hug you. So I made it awkward and made him hug me. And then I texted him afterwards and said, hey, thanks so much. I really enjoy getting to know you a little bit more. I love meeting a fellow person who loves to hate on Pittsburgh. I think that's what I said.
You did something to that.
And you said, great meeting you too. Y'all, that was it. That was all he said. And I had a total meltdown, full-blown meltdown because I thought he wasn't interested. And then it took him not even 24 hours to call me then the next day.
A little over 24 hours.
No, I don't think it was.
It was
a little over 24 hours to ask me out for the next date. And then I would say that date, I was like, oh, shoot, I'm going to like this guy. That's annoying. Would you say the same?
So what was the question exactly?
But do you feel like that happened too on our second date?
Yeah. I just remember we went on a hike and then we went and
I shared my location with my friend because I was like, I was
watching too many Ted Bundy documentaries or something like that.
Yeah. I was afraid you were going to kill me or something.
Which in my mind, it's not like we didn't meet on a dating app. It's not like we didn't have a point of reference for that person. You knew me because the person in your faith and work class was friends with me.
Ted Bundy was very attractive and very charismatic, and he killed a lot of women.
I'll take that first part as a compliment.
Yeah. So you felt the same way on the second date?
I just remember we spent a lot of time together that night.
Yeah.
The hike was probably at least an hour and a half. And then we ended up going to get tacos and we're hanging out there for at least a couple more hours. And we didn't run out of stuff to talk about. It was very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too, that I was just even thinking about was we just had really great conversation the whole time.
And it wasn't anything. So we
had activities to do too, which is super helpful.
That was super helpful. But I left thinking that night, or even when we were hanging out together, that there's so much I still didn't know about you and that I didn't tell. I had a lot about myself I still hadn't shared with you. There was just it felt like there was just so much more I wanted to get into.
With
into
me?
it. With you.
With me.
Why are you so shocked at this point?
I don't know.
It's a very shiny ring on your finger.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's also interesting too for you guys listening. Like, I think the main point here too is we were just showing up in our lives. We were doing the things. Like, I was in a faith at work class. So that's why I say work was a part of our story, because I heard about this class through my old boss at the New York Stock Exchange. So like, go back how many years, how much I was always so sad about being single, but I feel like I can look back on that time and see how God was really planting those seeds then, me not even realizing he's working behind the scenes to eventually help me meet you. So I told my boss, I was like, I can thank you for my husband, because you told me about Missy, who launched NAFW, and like, it's just fun. Mm-hmm. It's just like really fun to think about. Another question that I got is more, I'm going to ask you it for specifically directed towards me, but I think this is a narrative that women who are career oriented get a lot. Oh, you're too intimidating. You're just too intimidating. Maybe that's your problem, quote unquote problem. If I have $1 for every single dude that told me that and told me I was intimidating, we would have a really nice fund to add to our funds.
Got it.
So did you ever find me intimidating?
No.
Why do you think that other people would find me intimidating as a career woman and you did not find me intimidating?
I don't know. I didn't have any kind of preconceived notions about who you were. You didn't even know what I did for a long time. Honestly, it took me a couple months to have any kind of frame of reference of what I didn't care what you did for work. And that was interesting. That wasn't important to me at all. It was important to me in the sense that like you cared about it. You were driven and you cared about it and you stood on your own 2 feet. But past that, like I didn't think much about it at all. Yeah, which is interesting because I feel like in the past for me, it was always either guys were really interested in what I was doing and almost like dated me so that they could like elevate themselves in some way, or they were intimidated by it and they felt like they had to be in competition with me. It was like one or the other. And you were neither, ever. No. Yeah. If anything, I feel like you've taught me to even think differently, not think differently about my career, but to hold it in its proper place, which you do really well. You excel, you achieve, but you are so gifted at putting work in its proper place. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. It's never been, I think of it as more of a, like a piece of the pie rather than like the thing that comes first. Work in general, you mean? Yeah. Okay. So what would you say to another woman who's potentially being called intimidating, that she is intimidating? What would you say to her? Not to the right guy is not going to care. Yeah. I mean, anybody that is so secure in themselves. I just love you. Anybody like man or woman, when you're secure in yourself, you're not going to be intimidated by what somebody else does for work. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I can even expand on that. Ask a follow-up question if you want me to expand. No, I think that I don't think we need to overcomplicate it. I think we try to overcomplicate it. I know for myself, when I was younger, I tried to figure out like, well, how am I too much? Maybe I make myself less. Like I remember even well-meaning friends and family that would say those types of things to me. Like maybe you're just too ambitious, or maybe like a guy's not going to like you because of that. Which is such a, and I know they probably didn't mean it that way, but it's such a, that's a criticism when there doesn't need to be one. Yeah. Like you don't change yourself to appease other people. Ladies, listen up. Yeah, I don't know. Like, why would you change who you are to get more dates or like find somebody else? Like, that's not going to end well. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? Like 5 years in, like, this is who I actually am. Like, I've been tricking you for the past 5 years. Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally with you there. Okay, so that's a good one. So ladies, if you have ever been called intimidated, listen to Brent. It doesn't matter because the right man won't care. So be your ambitious, all out galness, right? Right. Right. Okay. So I got this question. Actually, Adenola gave me this one. She said, after being single for so long, what's the one thing that surprised you about yourself? And we can both answer this in this new chapter of your life. So after being single for so long, what's the one thing that surprised you about yourself in this new chapter? You can go first. No, I'll probably just ramble until I land on something. But I think that so it was fast for us. Like I knew a couple months in, I wanted to marry you. Did you? I did. I knew that. I did. And I think those first 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you're just so wrapped up in that person and thinking what are you doing? I want to be with you. I want to spend more and more and more time with you. And I think that, I'm still more in love with you than I was even then, but it does look different.
It does look different. Yeah.
In a really cool way. Yeah. No matter what, I still have my stuff that I have to work through constantly. We're both works in progress that are never going to be completely quote unquote fixed.
Right.
I guess.
Yes.
So I think that, I don't know if it necessarily surprised me, but that's the thing that's more
obvious.
That we're a year and a half in, about to get married, and we're going to continue to work on stuff together.
Yeah.
Probably forever.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's true though, what you said is maybe it's the misconception that a lot of people have that once you get married, it'll fix everything, or you have been fixed. So therefore now you can get married.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just not the case.
No, we were in the appropriate places, I think, in our spiritual lives, in our personal lives, mental health capacity to meet our person. I do believe that, but we're not done.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's funny, when you do meet that person, you're so wrapped up in that person that they're taking up 95% of your mental capacity.
Yes.
And that dwindles over time. And it's just
because you do life.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
If you were like that, I feel 24/7, that would be really unhealthy.
Yeah, for sure.
You just couldn't operate.
No.
If that was the case.
No.
Yeah. I would say that my thing that I have really realized is I really need to work on my selfishness. I am. I'm just a selfish human. I knew that about myself.
And we all are.
We all are, right? I know that I'm not
it's the human condition.
Correct. But I would say that even for myself, I'm realizing it more and more. Just, I could think better. For instance, he said he's here 12 hours. So 12 hours a day, he's in my apartment. I don't put the dishes away like he wants them to put. We're starting to learn these things, folks, before we move in together. And it's oh, shoot, I could do that. And that's a small thing to not be selfish, but I'm not doing it because I'm selfish and I just want things my way because it's still my house.
Sure.
So, or I'm maybe not thinking of you first. I'm still thinking of myself because I've been trained. I feel like being single, I only had to worry about myself being single for so long. So for me personally, it has been an adjustment to move it away from me to a we of considering even just my career decisions or things that we're doing with the business. I cannot think just about myself. I need to be thinking about us as a family and what that's going to look like moving forward and taking steps towards that. So I think I've just been, the Lord has been, stripping me of some of my selfishness. I definitely haven't done enough as I should be, but
he's got his shears out.
Yeah. It's we're getting some clippings right now, but that was the thing that I thought for myself was the biggest thing that I really have learned in just this new season of the merging of the lives together, because it's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So it's fun, but it also is challenging too at the same time in a lot of good ways. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's more challenging to my own brain. So do you want to share how we got engaged or do you want me to share?
You can fill in any blanks.
Okay. How about that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. It was January 11th, right?
Yeah.
But I had wanted to probably propose since at least August. It didn't make sense in my brain that we knew we wanted to get married.
Yeah.
But you kept making me wait.
Yes.
It was ridiculous.
It was wise. For lots of different reasons.
I did have that ring.
You did have the ring for a long, it was burning a hole in your pocket. You had it in September or something? Early? Yeah.
August, September. I can't remember exactly when.
Yeah. You had it early.
I did.
Yeah, because we had seen it online and actually it was in a local place called Walton. So if anyone's ever in the Franklin area, they're beautiful. Honestly, they're jewelers, all kind of antique inspired. But I saw it online and we had looked at that one and you had liked it, but it had gotten sold.
Just because we knew wanted to get married and you were just kind of pointing me in a direction.
I wasn't telling him which one.
Styles were concerned.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked something that was a little bit more antique looking. Mm-hmm. It had more retro inspired. Yeah. And so.
Yeah. Can we interject with that story?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a more fun story.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's an equally fun story.
Yeah.
But so you were looking at the rings and I guess you went in there just to
pick out my ring size because I didn't know what my ring was.
We didn't know what it was, and just so I would eventually have that information, put it to some use. And I think you called me and said, "Hey, remember that ring we both liked that had been purchased before? Like someone brought it back. They didn't want it anymore." I was like, "Oh, no kidding. Like that's crazy." And we got off the phone.
Some people might think that's bad juju.
Yeah, but it wasn't for like an engagement ring. Someone
ring.
Bought it just for like to have a.
And she wanted something
ring.
Different. Yeah.
Yeah, and I ended up like calling your sister and being like, "Hey, I won't ever ask you to keep a secret from your parents ever again.
Yeah,
but do you want to come with me to buy your sister's engagement ring? It has to be like tomorrow. So they're putting this thing on hold for me for like 24 hours."
Yeah.
So we went down, and I think I told you I was meeting with the realtor.
I did not suspect it at all.
Yeah, was not meeting with the realtor. That's I think the only time I've ever lied to you.
I mean, you played it off well, which is kind of scary, but no.
And then, ended up buying it. I think your sister has it all recorded.
Yeah, she does.
Which is fun. Yeah. And gave it to my buddy to keep in his safe for the next 4 months.
And share a little bit about kind of why we wanted to spend time with each other's families too. Yeah,
it was important. Like we live 9 hours away from our families. So I think it was important to both of us to be able to, for them to be able to get to know one another as much as humanly possible. And that's just not going to be the case if we live in the same hometown. It's just going to be different. We're not in our early 20s. We don't live at home.
Yeah.
We're a little bit older. But so I had it in my mind, like I was going to ask your dad for your blessing around when we were back for Christmas, which like the only faux pas I remember from that conversation, I was so nervous. Like I don't get nervous a lot having I'm quite comfortable having any kind of conversation. For whatever reason, this one, it just freaked me. It freaked me out because everybody's around all the time. Your opportunities to kind of have this conversation kind of casually and come up organically are almost impossible. So I remember we were down in the kitchen. I think it was you, your dad, and me, and you went up to go get a shower or something. And I remember him talking. We were talking about the Steelers, I think, and I think I interrupted and be like, "Hey, so So I bought a ring," and then I was like, "He shouldn't have said he bought a ring already, man." Quite presumptuous.
So funny.
But then we went into his office and had a little chat, and he gave me his blessing. And then so your parents knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Pretty
which I knew it was coming too.
Yeah, you kept telling me 2020.
You have 2020, but not too far, because at that point we had also already reserved our wedding venue, which is comical now.
Yep. Because we're going to have that thing for 2.5 years before we get to use it.
I know. So then the engagement day.
Yeah. So the engagement day, I had it all planned out. I had a couple plans in mind. One was going to be outdoors, and then the other was I kind of had to pivot because there was really bad thunderstorms that Saturday.
Just so random.
Yeah. And I texted your sister. I called her on the phone. I called her on the phone and said, "Hey, Meow," which is, I call her sister Meow just because I think
her name's funny. Mariah, but go on.
Anyway, "Hey, Meow. So I'm thinking I'm going to propose to your sister on January 11th. And she goes, "Oh my God, this is your moment."
She's going to hate you for saying that publicly. She did say that.
I was like, I know. I'm like Michael Jordan in the 95 playoffs, and I don't think she understood the reference.
Yeah, probably not.
No,
honey.
But
or maybe she did. I don't know.
Maybe after seeing The Last Dance, which is fantastic television, by the way.
Yes.
Anyway, and gave her the rundown. I asked, "Can you get Jena out of her apartment on Saturday? I'm going to, deck the whole place out, and just text me whenever she's coming back from lunch, and then we're going to do it from there." And
and she texted me asking, and I kind of had a feeling because the 11th, we had met on March 11th. The number specifically, I won't go into the backstory, but for me personally, in my spiritual journey, 11 was a very important number for me in my faith journey, and just being single for a long time. It was that number was very significant. And so he knew that. And then we also met on March the 11th. And so I kind of had a feeling maybe he's going to do it on the 11th because he didn't do it the first weekend. And then I started getting really anxious. Then I was like, oh my gosh, maybe he's not going to propose now, which is so dumb. But like, I started to have like all these fears. Then my sister, and then my sister texted me and I was like, okay, it's happening. She asked me to redo her LinkedIn profile. So I'm redoing her LinkedIn profile. This is why LinkedIn's a part of our love story or engagement story. But I was redoing her LinkedIn profile. And then I went back to my apartment and you had the song playing that I'll be walking down the aisle to called Divine Romance. And that was the song that the Lord had given me, I felt like, whenever I was living in New York, single as a Pringle and just waiting to meet my person. And I felt like he had given me that song. So you had that playing in the background and I walked in and you had it all decked out and you had candles,
a bunch of flowers.
Yeah. And you got down on your knee and you had a really beautiful note. And then we got exhausted the rest of the day by talking to everybody.
I was emotionally just drained.
Like, yeah, it was great.
It was awesome.
And he surprised me with actually where he really got me. The real surprise was he told me that, hey, our friends really can't. It's the second time you've lied to me. Hey, our friends really can't. We're going to hang out next week. Like people are out of town. Like the babies are sleeping. Like a lot of his friends all have babies now. But we're going to go over Will and Kyle's. We're going to go over our friend's house. They're going to make a steak. It's going to be great. I was like, okay, that sounds great. And so we get there and everybody was there and surprised
previous
us.
to that, we FaceTimed them and
they were so casual.
Just like chilling and they're like,
it was such a great decoy.
And sweatpants. Yeah.
Yeah. I was totally surprised. So it was such a great experience. And my girlfriends had sent flowers. It was just like, it was so fun. It was such a great day.
My sister and Big Bad John came down.
Yeah. Your sister and her boyfriend came and it was just a really, really great day. But that's a little bit about our engagement story too. Cause I've gotten that question too, like, how did it happen? How did it, go down? One of the questions I got was, what are you most excited about for marriage? And the other question is, what do you want your marriage to be known for? So the first one you can answer.
What I'm most excited about?
Yeah.
I mean, practically, like in this kind of like transition, it's
just moving into the same place.
Yeah.
Our stuff's everywhere.
Yeah. There's just so much stuff everywhere. Everything's like a constant, like, I feel like a to-do list right now.
Yes.
Where like combining stuff, like figuring out like what's duplicated. So we're not giving Amazon like twice the money next year.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to your sabbatical for sure.
Some quality time together where I'll be like plugged off.
Yeah. Getting like our home kind of situated and like learning that I know it sounds mundane, but like I'm most excited to just kind of like have our home like in one place and like start our life and like have more semblance of a routine. Like that sounds awesome right now.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that's kind of the season we're in where we're like in this in-between space. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And I'm excited to be married to you, obviously, and just getting to go through life stuff together and not just by myself. Cause I feel like that's still that merging piece that we get to do. And it's a really beautiful thing that anything that we're going through, for better or for worse, we're going to go through it together as a team and like continuing to like have those team building skills, That's, again, very corporate of you. I know, honey, but it's how I am. And then the question, in our premarital counseling, this question is, what do you want your marriage to be known for? And I thought that was a really great question.
It was.
I put down that I want us to be known for our communication, that we're good communicators with each other and honestly with ourselves, like that we're honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And so if we're honest with ourselves, we'll be honest with each other. And then the other thing, because I think it's illogical to say we want to be known for all of these different things because that's like setting yourself up for failure. But the other thing that I think is one, communication. And the second thing would be hospitality. Because we've talked about this a lot about thinking about our future home and what we want that home to be for people and the opportunity to have our doors open. Me probably more than you, but I'm like, let everybody come over. You can sit on our front porch. Like this will be great, and you're probably a little bit more tempered with that. I'm like all about inviting randos over and I'm just trying to lean into that, get off my lawn mentality that Clint Eastwood showed me so well. Yeah. Well, what do you want our marriage to be known for? I think I wrote down communication. I think I said like tireless communication, something to that effect. I also said,
the willingness to just be kind of open-handed about things and not like hold. Mine was more a mentality, just be open-minded, be open-handed, like don't hold everything so tightly. And everything we think we know is like subject to like be spoken about again and like perhaps revised and not think that we know what's best all the time, because it's certainly not true. I think we both can admit, like, for me, anytime I think like I know something to be absolute, I tend to be proven that that's not the case.
Yeah. So being flexible and being humble, essentially what you're saying is humility.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. What do you think is the craziest thing about us getting married in the middle of a pandemic? Or like, what's the craziest thing we've had to deal with and what's kept us sane?
I don't know. I think, what are we in, month 5 right now?
I don't even freaking know.
I think it's month 5. I mean, those first couple months were tough.
Yeah.
Like everything got flipped on its head. We didn't really know what to be true. We really didn't know.
If we were going to have our way, we were convinced in being, we're like, oh, by August, surely this will be over.
Yeah. So I think, it was so like up in the air. There was no ability to kind of get like
a decision.
We weren't used to that. We couldn't make any decisions. It was raining all the time. Like that was not fun. But
once we made the decision that we were going to postpone our wedding, there was freedom in that. And then we had to figure out, we literally all had just, as we're recording this is July 23rd when we're recording this, we just figured out in the last week where we're actually going to have our ceremony and dinner. That's for our wedding. That's in like 2.5 weeks, just because that's the state of the world we're living in right now.
For all we know, that dinner can change too.
We just don't know. Yeah. So we're honestly, the open-handedness part that you were talking about, I feel like is how we've had to operate. And I feel like we've done it, honestly, on the grand scheme of things, I feel like we've handled it quite well.
I agree. You said craziest thing. What's the craziest thing that's happened? Like, I don't know. Like we're so used to like things being weird now.
Yeah.
That, like everything seems pretty normal.
Yeah. I'm with you. And then the last question that I got was, and I think this is for both of us, but what is a word of encouragement that you have for single women?
For single women.
Yeah. And then you can share single men too, because I doubt there's a lot of them that listen to this podcast. I think either one you
said, I would have just repeated you in that cadence and tone of voice.
Okay.
A piece of encouragement. I think once I got really okay with being single and just like living my life and being present and not thinking like, how old was I when we met? Like 31?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 31. Like, am I ever going to meet somebody? As soon as I like stopped kind of dwelling on those sorts of thoughts and was just like, today I'm going to go to work and like, we'll see what kind of wins we get there and kind of challenges we get to overcome. And, we're going over, I'm going over my buddy's house tonight and we're going to have some dinner and, we're going to watch.
Hang with our kids.
Yeah. And we're going to watch whatever sporting. I was like, is it really so bad if I'm just like the weird fun uncle for like the rest of my life? And the answer is no, it's not. And as soon as there was some peace and acceptance over just like being fine with where I was right then and there is when like you entered. And it was the first time I didn't kind of like overthink anything as far as the dating was concerned. And I do think like going on a bunch of first dates and maybe some second dates and things not really working out and kind of like working that dating muscle is absolutely important.
Yeah.
It's just the meeting new people piece and getting the kind of mystery or shine or whatever you want to call it. And that becoming a very part of like normal life for you. That's important. Because it gets you to a place where you can be content. Like going on a first date isn't a huge deal.
Right.
You're not overthinking it.
Yes.
And you could just be yourself and kind of just be right there. And from a man's perspective, my thought process was never more than I really love spending time with her. I'm going to call her again. Yeah. That was it. Like I didn't go any further than that.
Yeah. And I think I would agree with that too, with just my experience of, I don't know, when I got to a point too, when I was just I went on a lot of first dates like you did when I moved to Nashville, because I didn't really date a lot in New York. I went on a lot of first dates and a couple other ones when I moved to Nashville. And it was so helpful because it helped normalize. It wasn't this big, scary thing. Like going on a date wasn't some big, scary thing. And I allowed myself to get rejected, to put myself and get rejected. And I think by the time I had met you, I was so like, I'm just going to be myself. Our second date, I would have never done this. Our second date, I had you pick me up from yoga after me going to yoga to go on a hike. Like I was gross. I did put lipstick on.
I thought you looked good.
I know, you're sweet. But like, I was just like, this is who I am. If he doesn't like it, it is what it is. Like I'm coming in my yoga pants that are a little bit dirty from my last yoga class. And this is how it's going to be. And I also will say, that for my ladies, I let you pursue me. I did not, that was the first time probably I've ever done that, where I let you call me. I let you plan the dates. Now some women disagree with that. That's totally their prerogative, but that was, I feel like a really big stretch for me because typically I was always not necessarily the pursuer, but I was definitely way more involved in the outreach in the very beginning. And I let you called me and planned all those dates for the first month that we were dating.
Yeah.
And you're like, I never had thought about it any differently, which was interesting. So men still pursue women. I promise you.
Yeah, you can argue that point to death. Like, women can call men too. Like, absolutely. But at the end, I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I know, but that was important for me. I wanted you to be the pursuer. And so
it's almost like if you can look at yourself and your own past experiences and be like, when I'm overly texting or reaching out to somebody else, like, am I getting more and more kind of paranoid?
Yeah.
Or something to that effect, that if that's kind of you, maybe take a look at that and be like, I need to like surrender that attitude and mentality and try something different for a little while because this isn't working.
Yeah, I'm with you. Thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
For totally indulging me and our listeners and sharing I think your wisdom is really helpful for other people, for other girls to hear too. Because I think sometimes, I know that when I was single, I was like, are there any good guys out there? And you were just a diamond in the rough doing your life. And you just came to me at the right time. And it wasn't like I created some crazy algorithm that summoned you to me. It just happened.
Yep.
And so just to be a word of encouragement, but friends, I'm about to enter into that sabbatical and spend some time with my almost husband. And we hope to see you back here on the Your Career Story podcast. Brent, I love you. Thank you so much for being on here.
You're welcome.
Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for listening to Your Career Story podcast. I would love to get to meet you. And there are a couple of ways that we can connect in between episodes. First and foremost, I love my LinkedIn. Second is via Instagram. And third is over on my website. I actually have a special spot just for you full of fun, free resources. So all you have to do is go to www.jenaviviano.com/resources. Super simple, for a bunch of freebies that will help you boost your career. Hope to see you next week.